my feelings flew when my dreams come true. I'll be not with you, oh boy. You'd better find yourself another toy. You can turn me on, it doesn't matter. You can turn me on, but it's okay. Baby, there's no feeling you remember. The love is gone. You can turn me on, it doesn't matter. You can turn me on, but it's okay. Baby, there's no feeling you remember. The love is gone for me. You can turn me on. My heart beats faster just because it recalls our past relations. It's just a habit that will soon pass, so we sick of your actions. You can turn me on, it doesn't matter. You can turn me on, but it's okay. Baby, there's no feeling you remember. The love is gone. You can turn me on.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. We are here at Silverstone for round 2. The first time the EnduroKA series flat out has come to Silverstone. They've not been here in real life before as of yet. So we decided, you know what, we'll take the trip over in the simulator, and we are here for round 2, like I mentioned, of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. Last time out we were at Donington Park, an action-packed race, and I'm sure there will be nothing less than that this evening. Of course, there you can see a 60-minute race at Donington Park, another 60 minutes of action here this evening before later on in the season, in a couple of weeks' time, we head to Snetterton, Alton Park, Brands Hatch as well for a 90-minute race, and the final round still yet to be decided on. Joining me in the commentary box this evening, it's no longer Mark Werrell. We do have David Christie joining me in the commentary box. How are you, David?
I am very, very well, very excited to be alongside you tonight here, Jack, and yeah, this is going to be an awesome race. I know you've got a very busy lead up, so we can spend all the time during the race having a chat, but yeah, delighted to be here.
Great stuff. So it's great to have David in the box. We also have a sponsors to mention before we get all of the action underway. First one, Positive Perception. They have been incredibly busy on the run up towards this the Winter Sim series. They have designed and sort of brought to life all of the liveries you will see on show this evening, a few of them being updated and changed. They also designed the actual grid finder livery that you will see on the actual EnduroKA, funnily enough. So they've been really busy on the run up to this evening. We also have Turn 7 joining us for the first time this season. I'm sure we can get a little bit more information on those. They are a catering specialist. They also do custom race and team wear, and they also do race driver and race team support as well. 10% competitor discount on your racewear as well if you're in the EnduroKA series. We also have Grid Finder, of course, one of the main title sponsors, as well as Burton Power, all coming together and bringing us the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. We also have prizes available for the competitors this evening and throughout the rest of the season. The top 3 drivers win a fully paid ARDS racing license. So if you don't currently have one, pretty much an ARDS license is much like a driving license, but it opens up the world of motorsport to you. You do an exam and then an on-track examination as well, and then you can get yourself an ARDS license and go racing in the UK. But all of that will be decided later on this season. We also have some highlights as well from round 1. We mentioned it was action-packed. Let's have a look at those now.
The red lights are coming on and we're about to get the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series underway here at Donington Park.
Who's going to be last at the late breakers? James Black. You see the nosedive down using all of the curb, but is that going to compromise his exit for the moment? Yes it will. Gary Preble, once again, you can visually see that gap coming down, so he'll be drafting all the way down the start-finish straight and into Redgate, who only knows will be in the lead. This is the last thing Tom O'Farrell wants, having, like I said, spent plenty of time in that top 3. In towards the old hairpin they will go. Yeah, that's Nathan down, and all of the following drivers. Frank Frosting, Tom Buxton losing out. Yeah, there's so many drivers. All just, I can't really keep up. I don't really know where to put myself. There's so many numbers going on.
Can he make it stick this time? He's got the inside line. Is James Black going to give him room? You bounce over the curb from Gary Preble. He's still trying to hook that inside line to draw himself alongside, but James Black has just enough momentum heading onto the exhibition straight to pick up and still hang on to the lead of the race as they close in on more traffic ahead.
Yeah, they are still side by side, but the inside will go to Scott Thorne for the Craner curves. The inside will then swap to Jamie Peters, and it's almost contact between the pair of them. A little flick of oversteer, but I think over compromised his line there, did Scott Thorne on the run through the old hairpin.
There's contact further back by the look of things, and Jamie Beeson and Ennis and Scott Thorne finally get together. They've been wheel to wheel, lap after lap after lap without any contact, and finally something had to give.
So this is 4 cars all fighting over second, third and fourth, or 3 cars fighting over second, third and fourth place. And at the moment, I wouldn't even want to call it, because Bobby Simmons is desperately trying to get second place. Once again, door-to-door contact between the pair of them. James Black in third. Tom O'Farrell could come away with second place here, and I think he just might.
All of this won't worry Gary Preble, because he's on his way towards a victory in round 1 of the 2023 EnduroKA Winter Sim Sports Series. Bouncing over the curbs goes Tom O'Farrell through the final corner. It's going to be Bobby Simmons who finishes second on the road. Who's going to finish third on the road? They are door handle to door handle coming up towards the finish line. And it is, I think, just going to be James Black from Tom O'Farrell that finishes third and fourth, respectively.
So there we go, a very busy round one at Donington Park. I'm not 100% sure we've come down off the high. It was a very busy round one, not only for us in the commentary box, but all of the drivers as well. And I'm sure our producer Daniel had a pretty busy evening as well. But we do have a special guest to bring into the commentary box. It's Daniel Bennell, the from Motorsport Operations and the media assistant for a multitude of championships and series, but more importantly, the EnduroKA series. So Daniel, welcome to the commentary box. It's great to have you here. We've lined up a couple of questions for you.
Hi guys, how are we doing? All right.
Perfect. It's great to have you in, like we say. But just a quick couple of questions before we get the action underway. When people think of race cars, Ford KAs maybe aren't the first cars that spring into mind. So what really fueled the decision to go for the KA?
Well, the Mark 1 4KA, it's so much more than just a quirky race car. It's got its motorsport limit. It's got its own motorsport lineage and pedigree of its own. So it shares a chassis with the Fiesta and Puma of the same era. And both those two cars have a record really of being exceptional race and rally cars. And so Ford themselves, even from there, added to this by the creation of the Ford K Rally Cup, which was one of the most popular junior rally championships that there was. And so from there, we just thought, it just seemed like the ideal fit for a new series and a new endurance series.
Well, they've really sort of shown their worth, and it's again you look at them and you don't think race car, but my God, some of the closest, some of the best racing you will see across the UK. And of course, with this being a sim series, we can race anywhere in the world without leaving the comfort of our room or even our chair. We can just sit here and travel around the world and race at some of the best circuits. But in terms of real world stuff, can we expect maybe an international round, maybe on the continent for EnduroKA?
Well, we at MSVT Racing, it's something that we look into all the time. We ventured onto the continent in the past with Track Day Championship at Zandvoort in 2019 and 18. A lot has happened, sadly, obviously, since then. But it remains something we're looking into. It just, it may be a shame that it's not as easy to race abroad in real life as it is on the sim world.
Well, of course, we've got all that to look forward to. Maybe the final round of the championship could be on the continent. We have yet to know. And apart from the obvious close racing, budget-friendly nature, why else do you think EnduroKA or the EnduroKA series has such popularity, both on track, off track, Facebook groups, wherever it may be? It just seems to have a great crowd.
I think, in my opinion, the success of the series is largely down to our ability to encapsulate the sense of humour within UK motorsport. So everything from the naming events, your Mon 24, 12 Hours to Norfolk, IndyCar 500s, to the off-track fun runs we did at Snetterton last year. It all comes down to trying to make the series as fun, as inclusive as possible. And this is filtered down to the paddock. I mean, Jack, I know you've been to EnduroKA paddocks and events in the time, so you'll know that it's extremely welcoming and helpful place to be. Everyone's up for a laugh. And then, this alongside with the reasons you've just mentioned, just make it a great place to go racing, whether you're a novice or veteran of the sport.
Yeah, it's a perfect formula for perfect racing. I've really got to be honest. It's definitely one of my favourites. We do have the cars on the grid and we do have the revs rising, so we're going to have to let
Amazing.
You go.
No problem.
Great to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Great chat.
So that was Daniel Bennell there, just answering a couple of questions and giving us an even better insight into the series and maybe highlighting a few ideas for the future, David.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a series that I've kept my eye on over the past couple of years since its inception, and it's gone from strength to strength to strength. There's a huge market out there, but we have to focus on the esports. Let's go racing, Jack.
Yeah, so 5 red lights on. That was 6, but we do go racing now here at Silverstone. The safety car in the background peels away. Jamie Peters-Ennis. So at the very tail end of the order. We've got some maybe an idea on why that is in a little while, but towards turn 1 for the first time, everybody seems to be working their way through. No major issues. but already into the lead of the race and maintaining his pole position there was Bobby Simmons. Just behind him is the number 25 machine of Peter Jones. In towards Maggots they will go. That is Colin Dunn looking up the inside, looking very racy, trying to work his way in towards the lead of the race very early on. Lots of chopping and changing a little bit further down the order. A little bit of contact as well, but Bobby Simmons, he'll be looking in his rearview mirror, and I'm sure that is quite a scary sight. 22 Ford KAs all sat behind him.
It really, really is, and again, testament to how close this championship is right now. Top to tail separated by 1.4 seconds on qualifying. Absolutely incredible. He said on the build-up as well that the Ford KA is a little bit of contact there on the back of James Black, that the Ford KA isn't something that you would associate with racing, but my goodness me, this is showing exactly what it's for, as Colin Dunn, I think it was, onto the back of Black, and that spins that car round there, so that's going to be at the back of the pack.
Yeah, such a shame for Colin Dunn in the positive perception with Dunn Motorsport entry. Qualified in 4th place. Clever driving from him there. He obviously got a little bit of contact from behind and was lurched in front of the entire pack, but had the foresight to put it in reverse, get it out the way, and make sure that he can retake to the circuit as safely as possible. Bobby Simmons already extending his lead margin up towards 1.4 seconds, heading in towards Maggots for the second time, and it's sort of nose to tail. Everybody's calmed down fairly early on, but there's still doors being opened and places is nose to tail, going 2 by 2, everybody in towards Maggots and heading on towards the Wellington straight. Somebody running very wide there. I can't quite pick out exactly who that was. It could have been Jack Mace potentially. Nathan Down dropping down a few positions fairly early on, but I don't really know where to look because everybody's trying to get the same position, and at the moment Bobby Simmons is running away with that.
Oh yeah, Jack, you're going to be absolutely earning your pennies tonight on this one with all of the action that is going on. It's left, right and centre. God knows how our producer Daniel is going to be able to keep an eye on this one because, you know, with 24 cars causing absolute bedlam, and we've still got, what, maybe 6-7 seconds separating the whole lot as Peters and Parsons looks like to have come together towards the back of the grids here. It's just incredible. And what I love even more about this, Jack, is the fact that this is exactly how the real life version is. This is a 1-for-1, a complete copy of how intense the racing is.
Yeah, and it is intense. You might not be breaking the sound barrier, but you have some real close racing in the in not only the actual, but also the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series. Just going off round 1, you know it's going to be a brilliant championship, and it's going to be very busy work. Somebody that will be rather happy and maybe slightly more comfortable than round 1 this evening is our current race leader, Bobby Simmons, because our race 1 winner, Gary Preble, is missing this round due to attending the CSCC's award nights due to his achievements in real world motorsport. So he's taken a step away from the virtual motorsport, and he's gone to receive some silverware. I'm sure somebody getting slightly tagged there heading through Maggots and onto the back straight. That could have been Mark Beaumont in the number 96 Team Motorade entry. There he is. I think he got a tag from the car in front of Frank Frostick in towards Brooklands on the left-hand side of your screen now. Scott Thorne sweeping all the way around the outside of Kingston Lee, so that's Joe Kingston Lee in the AAA machine. So it's very busy. You look back to the right-hand side of your screen, there's yet more action. So not only for us and the producers and the drivers, the people watching along at home, David, it's going to be a busy job for them as well.
Very entertaining. Unfortunately, what we end up finding, and I remember us talking about this off air, is races like this, you know, we enjoy them so much, but it's a case of where on earth is the past hour just gone? We're going to be, you know, 50 minutes into this race and we'll realise that we've only got 10 minutes left, and I get the feeling that we're going to still have cars nose to tail throughout. But this is an amazing feat as well, not just with the with how close everything is, but how respectful this championship is as well. Jack, me and you are no stranger to watching sim racing, and we've seen plenty of series where it's a little bit rough and tumble and it's a little bit like just a little bit too physical. This is absolutely the opposite. Clean, fair racing. I tell you what, regardless of sim racing or real life racing, this is exactly what you want behind the wheel, because the buzz of adrenaline that you get fighting fair with all these other drivers is absolutely incredible. Yeah, so we hope that everyone out there is enjoying this just as much as we are right now. But Bobby Simmons right now at the front of the field over Black, 1.3 seconds. That second place car still within touching distance there, and again strategy going to play a big part in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be all will be revealed in 54 minutes time, but everything can get flipped on its head, as we saw at round one. And you make a good point as well, because these cars, whilst we don't like to see contact, if unfortunately there is a little bit, maybe a bit of door-to-door contact or some nose-to tail contact, the cars can take it. They can, and the drivers can take it as well. They are comfortable just being knocked slightly because they know they can give it back in a couple of laps' time. Heading through turn one now, Cobbs, that's Nathan Down trying to work his way up the inside of Joe Kingston Lee. They're both being chased down by Tom Bunton. Tom, maybe a slightly quiet round one. We saw a little bit more. What was that, sorry?
Jack Mace just firing it up the inside of Jones there for third position. That was a ballsy move going into Maggots and Beckett's there, Jack.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking down at my paper to see where Tom Bunton finished. He finished in 18th at round one, so a quiet round. But now we see Jack Mace once again coming back under pressure. This time, Peter Jones works his way back up the inside. So Peter Jones back up to where he qualified in third place. Does he get the car slowed down? Just about. Jack Mace trying the cut back, but then it will be the outside once again for Luffield. Cuts his way back up the inside. Very clever driving from himself. Doesn't let the car wash wide. Back over the start-finish line again. We've had all that action just in one lap, and they're going to cross the line exactly how they did, 1 minute and 40 seconds ago.
As you were, and again with these 1.3 litre Duratec engines, momentum is so important. You don't have all that power under your right foot that's going to send you not to 60 in about 3 seconds. You're going to be a little bit longer in these cars, so you have to keep that speed up, you have to keep that momentum. And you were talking about Tom Bunton there. I mean, obviously in taking part in the real life version of it this year as well, but 7th place, that's a great performance so far, and well in the likes of Kingston Lee that he's got just up in front as well. So the thing is, you can go from in a okay position to a really good position in just a matter of 10 minutes in this race.
Yeah, you never really can settle into a position, because as soon as you start to think, right, I'm okay here, you can get complacent and somebody will be right with you in the blink of an eye. And obviously with all this battling going on, very late on the brakes there was Peter Jones trying to dive his way up the inside in towards Brooklands. Jack Mace just managed to hold the momentum around the outside. Like you say, momentum is so crucial in these cars. But while all this is going on, Bobby Simmons and dare I say it, James Black now are both just running away. They're letting the cars behind battle. Bobby Simmons is still 1.5 seconds to the good, but one small mistake and James Black will be right there with him. But back to the left hand side of your screen, you can see Jack Mace once again under yet further pressure from Peter Jones. Fastest lap of the race is still being held by James Black up the road, so maybe that lead gap will slowly start to come down. Up the inside there goes Peter Jones on the way through Copse Corner. Jack Mace is, let's say, temporarily demoted down into 4th place, because it looks like once again he dives to the inside, which will become the outside, heading through Maggots on towards the Wellington Straight for the 6th time. But Jack Mace on the outside, he can't afford to give up too much time, finds a little bit of grip on the outside that will, if he stays there, become the inside for Brooklands Corner. But Scott Thorne, he's got the best seats in the house, he's watching it all unfold in front of him.
I'm sorry, what? How on earth can you hold round the outside of Maggots and Beckett's? That was wild driving there from Jack Mace, but they're going to have to get a move on, because there's Scott Thorne just behind there in that 199, and the rest of the pack are catching up as well now. So this is now gone from a 2-car fight for 3rd place to a 3-car fight. What a move up the inside from Jack Mace, and so goes Scott Thorne as well. He's got the whole shot.
Yeah, bouncing over the grass go the pair of them. Jack Mace was, I think, trying to carve his way up the inside. Scott Thorne was trying to follow him, but then found his own space, 3 wide into Brooklands, managed to make it work. And Peter Jones, I'm sure he'd be rather confused, because he entered this lap, or the lap we're currently on, in 3rd place. We're crossing the line now, and he's found himself right the way down in 5th place. And now with a train of cars slowly starting to approach from behind, Tom Bunton, we mentioned earlier on, was trying to push forward. He's now got the attentions of all of the cars behind him. We're trying to pick out exactly who that is behind Tom Bunton. You've got Nathan Down and Nick Creed both sat behind him, so he was slowly starting to feel that pressure. Jack Mace is, whilst he has 3rd place, he's still got Scott Thorne and Peter Jones behind him. They're going side by side in towards Maggots. Can Scott Thorne find the grip around the outside like we saw Jack Mace do on the lap prior? No, not quite. Running slightly wide there is Peter Jones. Joe Kingston Lee is definitely there, ready to pick up the pieces if it all goes wrong. Tom Bunton has now dropped behind Nathan Down and Nick Creed. So Tom Bunton, like we saw a little earlier on with Peter Jones, he entered the lap in 7th place. He's found himself in 9th. We're only halfway around, and Scott Thorne is already trying to make a move for that final podium position.
And absolutely sending it from last week. There goes Jones again on the inside. A little bit of contact between Jack Mace and Scott Thorne there. Mace is going to try and have the inside line, but Scott Thorne has got the whole shot. He's got through. But look at that contact from Jack Mace, forced rounds. And that is very, very unfortunate there, because Scott Thorne was always just going to let go of the brake and tap that car round. So Jack Mace getting a little bit of just desserts there, and a very, very precarious position for that little Ford KA to be placed on the track with 49 minutes left to go. I'm gutted at that. I feel robbed at that, because that was the most incredible battle I think I've seen in sim racing for a good year and a bit. Anyway, that was just fantastic stuff there. 6 cars fighting it out for 3rd position. And never mind the real life EnduroKA series, I think they'd be jealous to have that sort of action out on track, and it's just absolutely boggling. How did we just have that for like 10 minutes?
Yeah, the best part is it's not over. Sure, we've lost 2 of the drivers, but now, like we mentioned, Peter Jones was ready and waiting in the wings. He's managed to promote himself up into 3rd place. Joe Kingston Lee up into 4th. But then the battle we were looking at a little earlier on between Nathan Down, Nick Creed, and Tom Bunton has now got Scott Thorne in there, and it looks like we've also got Greg Giles also trying to work his way in. So we've gone from 3 cars all fighting over 3rd place to probably about 6 or 7 cars now all fighting over 5th place. So, like we say, it's definitely not over, and we're only, 12 minutes into the race. We've still got 48 minutes of action still to go. The potential of a safety car, of course, the mandatory pit stop, so the drivers do need to come into the pit lane. I don't think any of them will take tyres, but they will need to take a little bit of fuel, so strategy is still something to think about as well. And if you're Bobby Simmons, you will have no idea. You'll be sat right up at the front, punching the hole in the air for everybody else, but you'll be in bliss. You'll have a completely empty rear view mirror and no idea that Tom Bunton is now trying to work his way up the inside of Scott Thorne and successfully do so at Copse Corner, or has he?
We're about to find out. It's one of those things where you kind of have to take a sharp inhalation of breath, and you mentioned another 50 minutes to go of this, Jack. I don't know about yourself here, but I'm going to need a defibrillator and a lie down in a dark room after all this. Is Tom Bunton up the inside there, holding that position from Scott Thorne, and you've got Giles trying to have a go there. Did Thorne just try and honestly drive right the outside there? He seems to have so much grip going right the outside of that right-hander there. Brilliant stuff from Tom Bunton, getting the elbows out, making sure that car's positioned exactly where it needs to be. And again, so important where you don't have, GT3 like pace in these little 1.3 litre engines. So all you can do is smart positioning in the car and really work on those lines.
Yeah, so we get now quite a unique onboard shot from Tom Bunton, looking at the inside of Scott Thorne. Round Luffield we will go. They're so even on the exit. Scott Thorne could probably get the power on slightly earlier. The outside line is definitely his favourite. He saw Jack Mace do it earlier on in the race, and he's now realised just how much momentum can be carried around that corner. There is Greg Giles just slightly further up the road. Tom Bunton left without too much to do, so he jumps once again behind the wheel tracks of Scott Thorne. Through Copse Corner we will go. Greg Giles will be feeling the pressure of the 2 KAs behind. Slightly wide, very wide indeed for Tom Bunton on the exit of Copse Corner. Got to be careful though not to pick up too many exceeding track limit warnings, because that's when penalties can slowly start to fall into place. But with the trio battling the way they have, that has now thrown David Evans into the mix. So this is the battle over the final 4 spots in the top 10. On the right hand side of your screen you've got Nick Creed battling away with the car behind. So Nick Creed currently still under pressure from Nathan Down, and you've got to remember Tom Bunton was once on that battle on the right hand side of your screen. He was battling with Nick Creed and Nathan Down. He's fallen away, but it can happen to anyone.
It really can, but my goodness me, what a rush this is. And I was away to say about 5 minutes ago when we had that fight for 3rd place going on, what an incredible advertisement for sim racing is this EnduroKA series. This is, quintessentially what club racing is all about. The one make series where it's affordable, it's easy for folk to get into. I mean, obviously you've got the real life entries have just opened for the 2023 season as well. As is definitely something I'm going to be looking into now because they do arrive and drives many teams. You can just get in touch with them and you can pay a little bit of money as long as you've got your ARDS license. They supply the car and everything that you need, and you just turn up with your helmet, race suit and gear, and have probably one of the best weekends that you'll ever have. I've taken part in club racing a couple of years ago, and I can absolutely hand on heart say it's one of the greatest things that you can ever do. If you've ever had an interest in getting behind the wheel, just do it. Just get the pennies together, get out there. EnduroKA is incredibly good value for money. So yeah, just head over to EnduroKA.com and get yourself involved. It'd be amazing to see folk out there, Jack, spectators out there watching the YouTube stream, that they could be taking part in this season.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you will not walk away with a bigger smile on your face after racing a KA, even driving a KA on a circuit, whether it be a test day or something like that. I'm sure you will walk away with a massive smile on your face. And as Daniel mentioned earlier, I've been to a couple of EnduroKA rounds, covered a couple of the real rounds as well, and even if it's the driver's first time in that car or potentially their final time after however many races they've done, they get out with a huge smile. Even if they've raced McLaren GT4s or anything like that, you can still get out with a smile. There's nothing quite like an EnduroKA race. And like you say, what an advert, not only for sim racing but for the EnduroKA series as well. Looking now, Nick Creed and Nathan Downs still battling away side by side in towards Maggers for what will be the 12th time. All of this battling is now bringing Greg Giles into the mix, but he is bringing with him Scott Thorne, Tom Bunton and David Evans. So this could be 5 cars all fighting over the final 5 places in the top 10 at the moment. Bobby Simmons, has extended that lead margin up to 2.8 seconds. Peter Jones a little bit further adrift than we expected once he has now escaped the grasp of Joe Kingston Lee. Once again, we're seeing Nick Creed trying to work his way up the inside of Nathan Down in towards Brooklands. Can he get the car slowed down? Yes, he can, but of course that's the inside for Brooklands. It's the outside for Luffield, using all of the track on the inside. Does he have enough room to cut back in? No, that's Nathan Down once again back up the inside. But Nick Creed will be able to get the power on slightly earlier, potentially in towards Copse Corner. They will go in a few moments' time. He'll pick up a slight bit of draft assistance all the way down the start, finish straight. So once again, they've entered a lap in a different order that they will end, but in a couple of laps' time, it could be completely backwards. They could find themselves fighting to stay in towards the top 10.
Yeah, that's spot on, because you've got Greg Giles and Scott Thorne looking to make moves. They go side by side through the Copse. Incredible bravery from the pair of them there. I think that Nathan Down just held that on round the outside, and we've now definitely got a 4-car battle here for 5th position. This is fantastic stuff. And as we said earlier, 42 minutes of this. You've got Scott Thorne behind, Tom Bunton's still in there, and you've got Evans just behind there as well. So almost a 6-car battle for 5th position. I've never seen racing like this before, where it's so close, but yet it's so intrinsically fair. And what the point I was trying to make earlier is that, Jack, you've done many other championships online as well, virtually, and to see a championship that is this respectful, this clean and fair, it's a complete breath of fresh air, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can cover thousands of championships, but again, it's just finding that one that works. And this doesn't only work for us as commentators and broadcasters, it works for the drivers as well, because they know they can race door to door, they can race closely, they can get away with a little bit of contact, but then at the end of the day they've got an hour to sort out whatever issue they may have. And we're already, believe it or not, a quarter of the way through the race. I don't know how that has happened, but it's we didn't really expect anything less. And you're looking now on the left hand side of your screen just how close that battle is for 5th place, because Nick Creed is still trying to work his way away. Greg Giles is now up into 6th place, Scott Thorne up into 7th, Nathan Down, having spent the previous 5 or 6 laps battling for 5th and 6th place, he's just worked his way back up into 7th past Scott Thorne. Tom Bunton still sat there in 9th place. He'll make that 8th place because Scott Thorne has lost another one. See, we can't even keep up. The battle is happening quicker than I can think.
Can we also appreciate the absolute timing? The words clean and fair race left my mouth the exact same millisecond as Greg Giles gave a little boop to the back end of Nathan Down, who can only be described as this drive right now is absolutely baying for blood right now. I don't think that's actually the case, but he is on a mission right now. He's just overtaken like 3 cars in the space of 6 corners, so absolutely on it right now. Tom Bunton getting in the mix there as well. Nathan Down gets that position done and dusted though, and he is going to be hunting down Greg Giles as we see Kingston Lee up into P4. I was also noticing YouTube chat pointing out there that Joe Mace has already been into the pits there, so a very, very early stop.
Yeah, both Jack Mace and Callum Perfect have been into the pit lane. Of course, Jack Mace caught out in an incident slightly earlier on in the race on the exit of Lovefield, so maybe just deciding diving for the pit lane is the best way to go. We've still got this amazing battle being fought between 5 or 6 cars. I think Nick Creed is just starting to work his way away. Greg Giles following suit. Tom Bunton late on the brakes managed to work his way up the inside of Nathan Down, but on the exit, can he get the run down the Wellington Straight? I'm not 100% sure he can. There you go, Nathan Down now back in front. A little bit of door-to-door contact between the pair of them, just letting each other know that they are there. And then we also have David Evans just following suit, but he's got the attentions of Scott Thorne, Frank Frostick and Colin Dunn now behind him, riding on board with Tom Bunton, looking up the inside, trying to carve his own little KA space up the inside of Nathan Down. Can't quite do it this time by. Through Lovefield he will go. He can use all of the track he likes. There's no car on his inside or outside. Focuses on his exit, uses all of the circuit. A quick right-hander at Woodcut before we complete lap number 16 already. Heading towards Copse Corner once again. We'll keep an eye on Tom Bunton. What will he do? He's definitely closing that gap across the start-finish line now. And towards Copse Corner, Tom Bunton had a little look, filling the mirrors of the car in front, but this time just focusing, getting a quick run through. Can he get the inside? Can he get the outside? He's still deciding as of yet, waiting for the car in front to make the move. He jumps to what will be the inside of Maggots, side by side still. And to be honest, we didn't really expect anything less. In towards Maggots he will go much later on the brakes goes Tom Bunton. He gets the car slowed down quite nicely, tries to park the car on the apex, but then he doesn't have the most monumental power figures to drive the car off the corner, which means he is temporarily in front of Nathan Down. But come the end of the straight, it could be the other way around.
Jack, does this not just make you want to get behind the wheel of the Sin like right now? Like just jump in and actually, this looks amazing fun. Like I am so jealous of all 24 drivers right now who just look like they're having an absolute blast. It certainly seemed that way from round one, but we kind of got an idea as Tom fires up the inside again, looking so close with that little 1.3 perky Duratec engine in that Ford KA. But again, I mean, we saw the qualifying times just beforehand, and just to remind you again, for those at home, 1st to 24th were separated by 1.4 seconds. I mean, that's the sort of thing that you'd expect from pro esports events. So to have that in this sort of club level winter esports series is just intense. It has obviously led to some fantastic racing here, but yeah, this is definitely something I'm going to be seeing how I can get involved in this next season.
Well, I'm sure it will definitely be worth it, but of course these drivers, whilst they are involved in it this season, you said it makes you want to get behind the wheel of a sim. If you haven't been behind the wheel of a real EnduroKA, you can. That is up for grabs. It, like we mentioned earlier, one of the prizes are in the top 3. You can get a fully funded ARDS license. So they might start off in a simulator and just think, you know what, it's a bit of fun, but with the field being a massively mixed spread of ability, of experience, of age even as well, all of these varying factors, you might be on a simulator for the first time. This could be your first sim series, and you might go and win yourself a fully funded ARDS license, and then you can go do it for real. That is the beauty of this series. Looking now at Bobby Simmons, 3.6 seconds is the lead margin. Heading on to lap number 18 now. He does have the fastest lap of the race on first glance. So 1 minute 19.530. Of course, still yet to pit. We've had a few more cars diving towards the pit lane. Glenn Copeland has been into the pit lane. So too has Scott Thorne. Potentially clever driving there from Scott Thorne. He's been battling away, losing all that time. If he can dive into the pit lane, get everything sorted that he needs to, he can come out in fresh air, not really worry about battling anyone, focus on getting some quick, clean and consistent lap times in, and you never know, that could throw him right towards the pointy end of the order.
That's a great shout there, Jack, because strategy is the other part that we haven't really spoken about in this race here. And again, it feels strange talking about Ford KAs, and they're not exactly what you would associate with a premium race car, but the racing that you get here is exactly the same as it would be in any sort of different other class of race car. It's the same sort of thinking that you've got to do with strategy, same racecraft that you've got to get involved with as well. And strategy is going to be a massive thing here, because tyre wear, obviously it's not really going to be too much of an issue, but fuel wise it is, because how much fuel have these cars taken on, how much are they, how much have they allotted for, when are they going to be taking that pit stop, could have monumental implications. We've seen that for the past 10-15 minutes where you have cars fighting each other, potentially losing each other a lot of time there, but on the other hand they could be provide themselves with a little bit of a boost. They could be in that if they work together they could have some handsome rewards, but 9 times out of 10 they don't actually work out like that. So I think the earlier ones we're going to have to keep an eye on. Scott Thorne definitely is one of the furthest forward, having pitted already.
Yeah, so there's still so much to think about, because they've not only got all of this battling, and they've got to decide where they want to be, making sure they're braking at the right point, turning in at the right point, not making too much contact with the car in front, beside or behind them, because they are all possibilities. They've still then got to think about the strategy. And Scott Thorne, I've got to say, very clever driving, and he's just come out behind, that's Tim Parsons, who is still yet to pit, so he'll want to work his way through and past as quickly as possible without sort of hampering his progress back up through the order. He does have Mark Peters behind him, still another car that is yet to pit. Bobby Simmons now 4 seconds to the good. I believe that's come down, I think it was 4.6 last time we checked, so maybe a slight mistake there from our race leader. The top 3 very equidistantly spread. The closest cars on circuit are the ones we're currently looking at. Scott Thorne, like we say, has been into the pit lane, but he's still, that doesn't give him any right to have to work it, like just be let past just because he's been into the pit lane. This is a battle for overall position, whether the car in front and behind has pitted. Irrespective of that, he needs to make sure he can work his way past, but I don't think Tim Parsons is going to make it easy.
Yeah, and of course this is 4th position as well. As it stands, it doesn't matter if 10 laps ago Scott Thorne was up at the front fighting for 3rd position. That's absolutely irrelevant right now. What he's got to try and do is get past Parsons in as timely a manner as he possibly can, or potentially just if Parsons isn't holding him up, just take as much of the slipstream as he possibly can and get past where possible, as Thorne has a huge bit of oversteer coming around that corner there. You saw the back end just fish out, so we'll keep an eye on what's happening there. But we're already, if you can believe it here, Jack, coming up to the halfway point in the race here. 30 minutes. I did say that it was going to go in the blink of an eye, but I didn't quite think it was going to go that quickly. What a coverage drive as well for Colin Dunn. Caught up in that first lap contact there, got dragged all the way to the back of the field here, and is already back in the top 10.
Yeah, he's really been pushing forward. Very, very impressive stuff from himself. He has got a little bit of sim experience. He started sim racing in around about 2020 in the VTCC, and then he's done a couple of the positive perception support leagues, mostly in GTs, but I'm sure all of that sim experience will be coming into play here this evening. That is bump drafting, something you do see in the real EnduroKA Championship. So nose to tail through Copse Corner goes Colin Dunn, still trying to chase down Frank Frostick. Just slightly further up the road, there is Tom Bunton, still sat there in 6th place at the moment. Are they side by side in towards Maggots? Yes, they definitely are. On the inside goes Colin Dunn, gets the car slowed down, drives the car off the corner, manages to make that position nice and early so he can get the best run possible on towards the Wellington straight, but of course the draft assistants will now be thrown the way of Frank Frostig. So having just worked his way by, he might have to go from attack to defence, but it doesn't look like Frank Frostig has really got that in his locker. He is now, in fact, losing time. That just shows the quality of the run on towards the Wellington straight that Colin Dunn got. Back to Scott Thorne, working his way up the inside of David Evans in the Semprini racing car. Semprini Racing not only like visualised in the simulator, they run 2 cars in the EnduroKA Championship, the Semprini Racing and Semprini Racing Juniors, so they've got their own junior team as well. And at the moment, there's nothing junior about that drive. Working his way up the inside of Scott Thorne, having just worked his way past, in towards Brooklands goes Scott Thorne on the outside. David Evans trying to work his way back up the inside. It will once again swap to the outside. There's so many different things you've got to think about, and it's not a massively exciting circuit. Well, I didn't think that coming into this evening, but EnduroKAs have proven me wrong.
Yeah, they're really having a wild time out here at Silverstone National. It's the perfect type of circuit for them. It's the perfect layout at Silverstone because the international version, I think, is a little bit too big for these types of cars, whereas the national, it's short, it's peppy. There's lots of opportunity for drivers to get in the mix with things here. So yeah, lots of thrills and spills as we see Glenn Copeland here a little toot the horn as we go past. It's not the most masculine sounding horn, shall we say, on these the virtual Ford Ka, but yeah, they do the job nonetheless, and they're having a grand old time out there on the circuit, but still side by side. And have we had a lap where we've not had at least 2 cars side by side?
No, I don't think that will ever happen in this series. Flat out, I don't think we will ever have a boring lap, to be honest. And at the moment, on the right hand side of your screen, people we've not really seen too much of. That is Craig Humphreys and Glenn Copeland battling away. Chris Humphreys, pardon me, battling away for what is 17th place, respectively. At the moment, it's Chris Humphreys that has just managed to work his way in front. Glenn Copeland, however, not too happy about that. Back up the inside, much later on the brakes. Massive flick of oversteer, gets the moment collected up, runs slightly wide. That'll cost him heaps of time, and that now means all of that hard work has come undone. Chris Humphreys back up into 17th place, but still within that draft range is Glenn Copeland, so he could swing back the other way at the end of this lap. Scott Thorne, he's not only managed to work his way through and past David Evans, he's managed to work into quite a good little bit of breathing room. 0.6 was the gap as they crossed the line. Currently sat in 14th place. We have a look to see who is the highest pitting driver. At the moment, Nathan Down has pitted. He's up in 11th place. Then it's Colin Dunn, a great recovery drive at the moment, sat there in 12th place. He's pitted. So too is Greg Giles. Scott Thorne on the road, 4th place out of the drivers that have pitted. But Bobby Simmons, 5.7 seconds up at the top end of the order, now in the pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely grand job for Simmons. He's looked very comfortable out the front of this race so far. It was, I mean, a little bit of pressure towards the start of the race there from James Black, and fair play to James. There's still a lot of work that could be done here in the next 25 minutes or so in terms of the pit lane strategy from Black, if he can actually make that work, a short stop, for example. But also don't discount the likes of Jones and Kingston Lee in second and third place as well. They are only 2 seconds each of them behind of the car up in front at the moment, but again, it's still way too close to call. And here comes Tom Bunton onto our former race leader, and well, this is going to get very tasty very quickly indeed, because of course what's going to happen here is Bobby Simmons now, while he's been out in front and been in clear traffic, he's not really had anyone to deal with as we stare into the 1,000-yard stare of our virtual driver there.
Yeah, I've got to say, just seeing that now, it's thrown into perspective just how high the quality was of the first half of Bobby Simmons' race, because he's come out in 5th place, 4th place after going up the inside of Tom Bunton. A very committed move, looking for him in the right-hand side mirror. There he is, a little bit of contact, but nevertheless, Bobby Simmons has managed to work his way in front, and he's in 4th place, having been into the pit lane. A 5.7 second lead into the pit lane. I've got a feeling Tom Bunton has peeled off towards the right-hand side to take his mandatory pit stop as well. Yes, he has. So from what was 4th place, very quickly became 5th place, diving into the pit lane. The top 3 still yet to pit of James Black, Peter Jones and Joe Kingston Lee. Bobby Simmons, logically, he's got quite a comfortable lead after all is said and done. But all it takes is one mistake. You go slightly too hot into a corner, you maybe lose the rear end, and you can have 5 seconds disappear just like that, and we can have a battle for the lead on our hands, and we can't rule that out at all.
Well, that's absolutely a possibility, because the other thing that we've not really spoken about is lap traffic. Now, that is going to become a factor. We were about maybe 15 seconds off of the lap traffic when that all came out just before the pit stops, and now we've had the pit stops. That could actually be a very, very real factor that they're going to have to deal with again. I'm sorry, I really struggle to take it seriously when I hear those little horns. They're just, and they're not too dissimilar from the real life one. So I've got a big love for the Ford KA series. Not just the race series, but the actual cars themselves. They're just adorable little things. And while it wasn't the KA that I had the Street KA, was my first ever real life car, and it has a special place, because they were always built to be fun. They were built to be a little bit different, as you said, coming from the Fiesta and Puma heritage. And when I was younger, I always wanted one of those Ford Pumas, because like the proper ones, before they did bad things to the name and turned it into that whatever that SUV thing is nowadays. But the Ford Puma was just an absolute beautiful little thing, and with the 1.6 engine in it, it was just a brilliant car. But this is just, it looks great. It looks so different to anything that's out there. Even nowadays, it just looks like a proper fun little car. And the fact they've made this into a race series, it just, whoa, I was trying to distract everyone from what was inevitably going to happen there, sent up the inside from the 247 of Wakefield there. But yeah, great fun little cars to do, and great fun little series as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and they can take the contact, as we've just seen. That was James Wakefield just letting Chris Humphries know he's there. He's not lost too much time. They are still nose to tail. On the right hand side of your screen, this is the battle for 12th place, I believe. No, that is it is. It was the battle for 12th place. They did swap around so quickly, it confused the timing tower. But Scott Thorne now down in 13th place, having been into the pit lane. He's battling with David Evans, who has also been into the pit lane. So this is a battle for position now. The top 3 still yet to pit. 23 minutes, don't know where that's gone, of the race remaining. James Black, Peter Jones, Joe Kingstonley, like I say, still yet to pit. So too does Frank Frostick, Eric Bolton, and Alex Walker. Alex Walker has got a busy weekend on his hands. He is also competing in the iRacing Daytona 24 Hours. Somebody that we've not really mentioned, but somebody well worth a mention. Jamie Peters-Ennis. He missed qualifying, started at the very back of the grid in 24th place. He's up into 17th, and that doesn't sound like too much. It's only 7 places, but we've seen how difficult it is to get past 1 Ford KA. He's managed to get past 7, so fair play.
Brilliant effort. And again, it just says, it's testament to what we were saying earlier about momentum being so important in these cars, especially when you're towards the back of the field. From real life experience, when you're at the back of the field, your difficulties in making any progress whatsoever are compounded, because as soon as you're fighting in that pack, you're then suddenly dropping way behind the top 15 cars, and then you can clear them, and then suddenly you've got like 6 to 8 seconds to catch up to the next one. So it makes it very difficult. Brilliant effort there from Peters-Ennis to actually make that happen there. And I'm also seeing that Jones in the 25 into pit lane already. So this is now the moment of truth for Simmons. Are we going to see them comfortably back up to lead? Every ounce of my body says yes, but I kind of just want to make things a little bit exciting here.
Yeah, one thing that suddenly dawned on me, obviously we're riding on board with Scott Thorne. We know he's had his time in the top 5, but the car in front of him, Jack Mace, up in 12th place. He was towards the very bottom end of the order, finding himself pointing the wrong way on the exit of Luffield in the gravel. He's right the way back up to 12th place. That just shows how much pace he's found in this race. Maybe pitting early was the best way to do it. Get out of all of those battles, and that then throws into perspective just how much time you can lose fighting the car in front. James Wakefield there on the right hand side of your screen in the number 247 machine. He is trying to work his way past Chris Humphries, who is still yet to pit. There's only 4 cars that still need to head in towards the pit lane, Chris Humphries being one of them. So James Wakefield, I'm sure there's a little bit of frustration there, because he is losing time fighting a car that he may not have to fight in a few laps time. He's trying to work his way up the inside there at Cops, can't quite get the move done. Running wide, however, is Chris Humphries. I don't know whether that is some sort of sticky grass, so you're slowly peel off that extra speed that you carried through turn 1, just to try and even out the track extension as much as possible. James Wakefield up the inside this time on the exit of Maggots. He gets a great drive off the corner, and that'll be why. That is because Chris Humphries finds himself doing a little bit of rallycross. He's lost heaps of time. Eric Bolton has managed to work his way through. Left-hand side of your screen, we've still got this battle going on between David Evans, Jack Mace and Scott Thorne. Jack Mace being the meat in the sandwich at this point, and this is the battle for 11th place. So you look at it and you think this is the battle on the final lap of the championship for the final step on the podium. No, this is the battle for 11th at round 2, and to be honest, we wouldn't expect anything less.
Absolutely, and it's what we've seen. I mean, you look at the highlights from last season or any other season of the real life EnduroKA series, and this is exactly what the racing is like. This is exactly how wild and fun it is. In fact, as an aside, I was actually watching highlights from one of the drivers last time at the Brands Hatch race, the IndyCar 500, from Danny DC2. So it's just so strange seeing how often how much the real life overlaps into the virtual one there.
Yeah, it's great to see just how close they've got. We were looking. I'll come on to that point in a few minutes' time. Colin Dunn tried to work his way up the inside of Nathan Down. Nathan Down, very, very strong around the outside, carries that crucial momentum that you've mentioned. Is he still on the inside for Luffield? Yes, he is, still side by side on the exit. Who's going to carry that superior speed through the corner and accelerate their way on towards the start-finish line? Colin Dunn has to be patient at this point. Nathan Down just managing to stay in front, heading towards the timing beam for what will be the 30th time already. Only 20 minutes of the race remaining, so 2/3 of the way through the race. A third of the race still remaining. Heading towards Copse Corner now, a little bit of bump drafting down the straight. We could see the two drivers working together, trying to catch Nick Creed up the road, also trying to escape the grasp of Greg Giles behind. But we've seen them side by side, we've seen them door to door and nose to tail and everything in between. So there's no real telltale signs that they're working together, because they could just be battling as hard as they have been all race.
Yeah, one of the things that it very likely is the fact that Colin Dunn and Nathan Down maybe just wanting to try and catch up to the back end of Creed and Walker. That, for me, what would signify what it is more likely to be. But Nathan Down still side by side there, and you saw going a little bit wide out of the corner there onto the grass. That's where you lose the momentum. But again, it's still, the more that these two fight side by side, the more that they're going to get held up. And in fact, Nathan Down late onto the brakes there, as easy and as cool, calm, collected as you like. That was very, very nice indeed. But this battle on the right still raging on right now. You've got 3 cars all fighting out here. Jack Mace, Scott Thorne and David Evans. This is fantastic stuff, and we've only got 17 minutes left to go here.
Yeah, you really just can't pick anything between them. Everything could change. Nathan Down up a position, so too is Colin Dunn and Greg Giles. That's because Alex Walker is in the pit lane. That promotes Jack Mace back into the top 10. Very, very good drive from himself. He's managed to work his way through and past Tom Bunton, David Evans and Scott Thorne. Scott Thorne potentially losing out yet another position to David Evans. Jumps off the track externals, trying to get back onto the tarmac to maintain as much speed as possible in towards Maggots. David Evans for Sambrini Racing manages to get that position made, and now Tom Bunton, forever the optimist, throwing the car up the inside of Scott Thorne, can't quite get the move done. This will be music to the ears of Jack Mace, having not only got past all 3 cars, with them busy battling away, that's already built up quite a nice gap. He can now focus his attentions forward on catching Greg Giles. Crossing the line and a change of position there was Joe Kingston Lee and James Black. James Black in towards the pit lane, Joe Kingston Lee inheriting the lead. Peter Jones last time through set the fastest all-time Sector 1. Frank Frostick and Joe Kingston Lee, the only 2 drivers yet to pit. Where is Bobby Simmons? He's only 10 seconds away. A full pit stop is definitely more than 10 seconds, so surely to inherit the lead in the next 16 minutes is Bobby Simmons, and this battle is still going on. I've been talking about timings and leaders and everything, and they're still side by side, Scott Thorne and Tom Bunton.
This is spicy stuff. And I get the feeling we're going to go 3 wides as Tom Bunton fancies it, isn't going to have it though, goes in the inside here. So close to having contact there. Scott Thorne, are you kidding me? Is Scott Thorne just actually driven round the outside of 2 cars at Cobb's Corner? That is scandalous. And there we go, 3 wide as you do. This is going to end well, isn't it? I did actually, to be fair. And Tom Bunton slides up the inside. No way! Get in there, Tom. Up the inside, takes the 2 of them. Job done. That is absolute bravery. I'm going to highlight that because it will all be undone in the next 3 corners as we have another 3 changes for position. But what can you imagine the absolute grin on these 3 faces after the end of this race?
Yeah, it must be a real mix of emotions. I was sat there trying to commentate and then realised I was too busy holding my breath just because I had no idea what was going to happen. David Evans up the inside that time of Scott Thorne. Scott Thorne, he's throwing everything at it. He just can't quite get it working. Colin Dunn now up and ahead of Nathan Down. But great work from Tom Bunton. Full commitment, managed to get the move done. And got to say, he's not just got the move done, he's managed to build up 6/10, which is, in terms of what we've seen so far, is a huge amount. Joe Kingston-Lee still yet to pit. Peter Jones, like I said last time through, with the overall fastest Sector 1. Draft could potentially come into play there. We look slightly further up the road, and there is James Black. He has been into the pit lane. He's now chasing down Bobby Simmons as best he can, but he does have a little bit of lap traffic just slightly further up the road. We'll try and pick out exactly who that is when they jump back into the camera shot. But James Black sat in what I'm not even going to say it's a comfortable P3, but everything could still come undone at the moment. There is Nathan Down at the moment, trying to work his way past Colin Dunn, but he's got Greg Giles all over his tail. So it seems like if you're the middle car in a battle, that's the worst place to be, because you've got to attack and defend all at once. There's contact between, I think, maybe all 3 cars there. Greg Giles works his way up in towards 8th place. Nathan down to 9th, and they're still side by side. Nobody can really decide who wants that position.
Now, I'm also looking at the live timing as well here, and I'm not sure how accurate this is, but it's shown to me Peter Jones has got a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane on lap 28, and he's not been in to serve it. So we'll keep an eye on that. That might be waived from race control, but certainly that's going to add to the woes of Peter Jones right now in 5th place. But back with his battle here, and I mean, this is what we've seen in every single little sort of pack of 3 cars here. It's just been toing and froing. But again, I have to say this, in all my time in sim racing, I don't think I've ever seen a sim race that, yeah, you've had little bumps and bangs all the way through, but it is so well-natured. There's so much respect between all of the drivers here.
Yeah, this is a great camera view to see just the respect as well. Look, they were left more than a car's width in between the pair of them, and now you can see bump drafting down the start-finish straight, or down the Wellington straight. Pardon me. You can see just how much that has benefited Colin Dunn, and that will be in the best interests of Greg Giles as well, because if he can just sit on, he should be able to work his way through and past Nathan Down. Nathan Down will be wondering what's going on and how they've got all of that momentum. He's forced to sit back in behind on the way through Brooklands, but then even potentially looking for a cutback on the exit of Luffield, or is he going to try and brave it all the way around the outside? The car washes wide. He's got to be careful not to run too wide and bounce it over the gravel and the grass. He doesn't do that, but he's lost a little bit of time. In the background there, on a charge, trying to catch his way back up, is Jack Mace, up into 10th place so far. A great drive from himself. We've got Frank Frostick in the pit lane. I believe that is the last of our cars to pit. Yes, it is. So Bobby Simmons re-inherits the lead, 3.9 seconds. James Black's been pushing hard because that lead gap is nowhere near what it was heading in towards the pit window. Nathan Creed now up into 4th place. Joe Kingston-Lee potentially in the pit lane as well.
Yeah, it's actually starting to come down very, very slightly. James Black brought that gap down, as you rightly spotted there. It was due to the pit stops there. Ben Simmons, when he went in the pits, 5.2 seconds when they came out of pit lane, it was down to 4.4. So a little bit of time gained there. As you see, Nathan Down still firing that car up the inside. You can see Joe Kingston-Lee on that right-hand side there, chasing down Nathan Creed, or is that's actually a lap traffic, I think, that they're coming across there, because that car is no, it is actually Nathan Creed. One of the cars that we haven't really spoken about too much through the race. Nathan's kind of went under the radar a little bit here.
Yeah, it's one of those drives that you don't normally pick up on. It's the same as Jamie Petersen. It's now up into 16th place. We hadn't really noticed him until you look further up the order, and then you see it. There is Nathan Down, Greg Giles. Greg Giles getting a little bit of a tap behind from Nathan Down. Got all crossed up, lots of arm work in the cockpit to try and get the car pointing the right way. Managed to keep the car pointing in the correct direction, and after all of that, contact between the pair of them, one car 90 degrees to the direction it should have been facing. They're side by side heading in towards Copse Corner. I don't quite understand how that works, but they've managed to make it work, and Greg Giles, after being sideways, is remained in front. But now Nathan Down, he's got the cutback. It will be the inside for Maggots and heading on towards the back straight. So what is going to change here? Nathan Down up into 8th place on the road, but we know how strong the outside can be, and look who's there, ready and waiting. Jack Mace, after being towards the very, very bottom of the order, now sat there in 10th place, trying to make that 9th. If he plays his cards right, it could very quickly become 8th place. So Jack Mace at the moment is well and truly at the top of the order for driver of the day. It's been a great drive from himself, desperately trying to work his way yet deeper in towards the top 10. And of course, if this trio continue to battle the way they are, Tom Bunton is there in 11th, ready to pick up the pieces. Greg Giles still the lead of this battle. I swapped that round. Jack Mace, very, very committed move up the inside. He manages to get that move done and completed. Is he safe on the inside? Yes, he is. So Jack Mace from 10th to 8th place in the space of a straight and a corner. Nathan Down managed to work his way through and past Greg Giles up into 9th place. Greg Giles, of course, now demoted down into 10th. Tom Bunton has now become part of this battle. So it's gone from 2 cars battling over what is 8th place to 4 cars now battling over 8th place.
And how often have we seen through the course of the past hour that happen time and time and time again? A little private battle, and then suddenly everybody else gets involved. And what a move that was. That's got to be one of the moves of the race there from Jack Mace. An incredible recovery drive. But as you said so many times before, it's not over. It's not even anywhere near over, because Nathan Down now has the run. And where Jack Mace had the advantage before, he had the slipstream of all those cars in front of him. Nathan Down fires it up the inside, but Jack Mace just seems to have a superior knowledge of where exactly he can get that traction there, Jack. He can just put things down in a way that others have really been struggling. You've got Greg Giles wanting to get involved in there. You can see Tom Bunton is maybe just giving this lot a little bit of a gap here. That's a very wise thing to do, because goodness knows what's going to happen. We've only got 10 minutes left to go here. Looks like a wild move there from Greg Giles up the inside there.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of contact between the pair of them. Jack Mace was sat in the middle, couldn't really decide where to go. Tom Bunton, like you say, just giving the battle a little bit of room. That's Greg Giles, very sideways. All into the gravel goes Nathan Down, purely out of avoidance. I think there, nothing he really did wrong. Jack Mace was on the inside. Greg Giles found himself pointing sideways once again. Scott Thorne has worked his way past Nathan Down for 11th place. Back up to Nick Creed. This is 4th place. Just sat behind him is the Triple Eight of Joe Kingston Lee, who's had somewhat of a quiet race. There's not been too much battling, but is now thrown back his way so he can go on the attack with, I can't believe I'm about to say, 8 minutes of the race remaining. I'm not 100% sure how that's happened. So the battle for 4th place is still hotting up. The battle for 8th place is continuing to swap around. Tom Bunton, really the big winner out of this. He spent 10 minutes watching one of the best battles of the race, and he's now gone through and taken 8th place and pretty much mugged everybody off, because Jack Mace he's desperately trying to work his way back past Tom Bunton, but there's nothing too much he can do about it.
Well, I'm going to clip that, because it's been the only time this race where I've said something that's actually worked out in my benefit there. But Tom Bunton, as you said, yeah, he was waiting patiently there. And look, that was always at a risk of happening. You get 3 cars going into the same corner. The stakes are higher as the time goes on. And there's always the risk that they're just going to trip over each other. No malice in any of what we just saw there down into that final corner there. It's just a racing instant in my eyes there. But Tom Bunton absolutely getting out of it. Here we have Tom O'Farrell then. I think he had a connection issue, ended up disconnecting early on in the race, ended up having to go back to pits and restarting from the back there. Great job to get themselves back up into 18th position. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. That's what we in the industry, Jack, I believe, call a boop to the back end of Tom O'Farrell there from, was that Wakefield in the 247 that was delivering of that boop?
Oh yeah, it was James Wakefield that did deliver that boop. Glenn Copeland, I heard a car go flying towards the gravel, and then gravel goes spitting away. There is Glenn Copeland. He's got that very wrong, and you'd have thought from Luffield pretty much to Maggots, you'd be flat out. So I'm not 100% sure how he's managed that. That's Tomo Farrell. I'm assuming he's got the stream up on another screen. He's realised we're talking about it, realised we're watching, and has decided just to show his approval. And of course, while the pair of these two are battling, that now means that James Wakefield could potentially get in on the mix. Back to the battle we were looking at earlier on. This is Jack Mace back up the inside of Tom Bunton. He's got to be careful not to wash too wide. Tom Bunton takes the slightly wider entry to hopefully benefit the exit, but he's left without too much to do. Jack Mace back up, like we say, into 8th place. Tom Bunton sat there settling for 9th. Back to the battle yet further up the order. This is Joe Kingstonley and Nick Creed. Nick Creed now down in 5th place for the moment. That is 4th place pending by the looks of it. Joe Kingstonley is in front on the exit of Copse Corner. On the run up towards Maggots and Beckes, there's going to be side by side. Nick Creed almost forced on towards the grass. In towards Maggots we will go. So much later on the brakes is Joe Kingstonley, but Nick Creed, quite clever driving, opens up the entry to make sure he can carry all of that momentum through the corner, get the draft assistance down the Wellington straight, and potentially find himself in front at Brooklands Corner. But you never know, by the time we get to Brooklands, they could have swapped places 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, Mind Games 101 there from Nick Creed. He knows that he's got the inside line on Joe Kingstonley there, and Kingstonley a little bit naughty, forcing that car out wide there, and sends it up the inside. Nick Creed gets the position now. All that Joe has to do here is get a tidy line through and just try and undo that damage there, but I think that it looks like Nick Creed might have the faster line through that as Tom Bunton gets that position back from Jack Mace. That's unreal as Mace fires up the inside again. This is topsy-turvy stuff, and did I not say right at the start of this race we were going to get 55 minutes in and wonder where on earth the past hour has gone, and that's exactly what has happened here. But looking back to that earlier incident with Copeland, I would love to see that, because that sounded like a very, very spectacular moment.
Yeah, not 100% sure how he managed it. I'm sure it was full commitment, trying to get every ounce of performance that is possible out of these Ford KAs. And at the moment, Jack Mace, for me, he's just got something else, whether it be finding all of that grip on the outside or being super late on the brakes in towards Brooklands. There's so many different things that have picked up on throughout the race, which are his sort of trademark moves. So if he's forced to the outside heading through Maggots, he's comfortable there. He can find all of that grip that we've seen happen time and time again, and then he can fire the car up the inside in towards Brooklands, which we've seen gain him so many positions. Tom Bunton this time all over the tail of Jack Mace. Will we see a carbon copy of what we saw on the lap prior? Lap 41 of the race now. But Tom Bunton, once again, in the draft assistance. We might see him pick up that position on the road, but Jack Mace will be on the inside. We know how strong he is there. Tom Bunton pulling yet further alongside, but in towards Brooklands Corner. He doesn't quite have it, or does he? Later on the brakes, he knows how much grip is out there. Jack Mace has shown him just that. Is he on the inside for Luffield? Yes, he is. There and thereabouts. Now he pulls alongside on the exit. He could potentially be in front. So once again, we've seen the two drivers swap places, but then on the run up towards Copse Corner, Jack Mace might fancy his chances around the outside. We've seen him do that. Are they side by side? Once they come past the camera, we will see. Yes, just about. There's about a bumper in it. On to lap 42 of the race. 3 minutes of the race remaining. It's too dangerous of a battle to call at the moment. Tom Bunton just about edging in front.
Yeah, it's just wild to watch this go on lap after lap after lap. And again, this comes back down to the racecraft and the immense respect that the drivers will have for each other. For those that don't do sim racing or haven't seen sim racing before, you know, this is incredible stuff that they're doing. So when they're behind the wheel of these cars right now, they're going through the exact same emotions that they would in the real car as well. They're still fighting tooth and nail. They're looking over their shoulder inadvertently before remembering to press the button to actually look to the left or to the right here. And you know, that same inbuilt little urge that I've got to get my car in front. This isn't a game to these drivers out there on track just now. This is literally life or death. I can absolutely guarantee it. But Tom Bunton is going to be absolutely delighted with his performance tonight. He's really shown what for, and being able to actually get the elbows out, and it's been quite an intelligent drive actually.
Yeah, and Tom Bunton will just be wishing that timer down. We figure out where Bobby Simmons is. He's just heading on towards the back straight now. Tom Bunton will be hoping for for the checkered flag this time by. It's not going to happen. He'll be hoping for the checkered flag next time by. It's not going to happen by the looks of it. So he's got one, maybe two more laps of the intense pressure being applied by Jack Mace. They've got to sort it out come the checkered flag. We saw how close the finish was for third place at Donington Park. I think there was 44 thousandths of a second separating James Black and Tom O'Farrell. There's literally nothing between them. One more lap after this one. Bobby Simmons coming towards the line now to head on to what will be his final lap of the race, but we can't dare look away from Tom Bunton and Jack Mace. They're still side by side, coming past the camera in a few moments' time. Who is the predominant car? It is Tom Bunton, just about remaining in front, but Jack Mace, he's got that all-important inside line. We know how confident he is on the brakes. Tom Bunton brakes sideways, but manages to get the moment collected up. All of that hard work has come undone. He's got one more lap and no more to try and work his way back through and past Jack Mace, but with traffic up the road, could be a busy job.
It could indeed be a very, very busy job. In any other racing series, you'd be like, right, okay, so that's the move done and dusted, we can look elsewhere, but you dare not take your eyes off of this, because while you've got that, you've also got now Greg Giles and Scott Thorne fancying getting themselves involved, and with just one lap left to go, you wouldn't count them out of it. Also, Dunn is onto the back end of Frostick for the battle for 6th and 7th position as well, so we've got some proper cracking battles all going through this top 10. Fair enough, your top 3 might be fairly decided, but what a race we've had, and it's still giving us amazing value for money.
Yeah, riding on board now with Bobby Simmons. What a well-driven race, pretty much from lights to flag. I don't think there was a moment his lead was ever in doubt. As soon as he built up that lead margin, he was quite comfortable just extending that. But round 2 of the EnduroKA Winter Sim Series will go the way of Bobby Simmons after finishing second at round 1. He follows up with the win here at Silverstone. In second place, crossing the line now, comes James Black. Peter Jones in the background will cross the line to finish in third place. Nick Creed will take 4th place in just a few moments' time, hounded to the line, I'm sure, by Joe Kingston Lee. Yes, he is. We look back now for Frank Frostick, who will be crossing the line in a few moments' time. Colin Dunn not too far away either, the pair of them chasing each other towards the checkered flag, but it is Frank Frostick that will finish 6th place on the road. Colin Dunn sat there in 7th place. Jack Mace comes out the victor in the battle between himself and Tom Bunton, very shortly followed by Greg Giles and Scott Thorne. The checkered flag appeared pretty much at the same time between the pair of them. Alex Walker rounds out his evening, finishing provisionally in 14th place. Mark Beaumont towards the line now finishes in 15th, followed by Tom O'Farrell. Jamie Peters-Ennis, a good drive from himself from the back of the grid to finish in 17th. James Wakefield and Eric Bolton finishes in 19th place. So what a race that was. And I don't really know how to come up with the words, and more importantly, come up with the questions, because I'm sure we'll talk to our top 3. What are we going to say? Because in theory, they were sat at the front and were none the wiser of all the action going on behind.
Yeah, they wouldn't believe you if you told them about all of the craziness going on. But Jack, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, we've done, like I said before, right? We do loads of different sim racing commentary events and things like that. But I mean, my brain actually can't comprehend what I've just seen. How do you summarize that? How do you break that down into an entire hour of what has been the most incredible, intense, and just action-packed racing I think I've seen for many, many years here? And as someone who dabbles in sim racing occasionally, I'm so jealous. What I wouldn't do to be in a race that clean, that enjoyable, that fun, and more importantly, not getting murdered at turn 1.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think the honest answer is you can't. I was still trying to get over round 1, and we're already here at round 2. So it's it was a busy old race for everyone involved, including ourselves. So I'm sure there will be lots of I don't really know how to explain it. There'll be conversations to be had with everybody in the Discord. I'm sure that will be just as busy as the race. But I'm sure we've got a couple of drivers ready for an interview as soon as they get out of the car. But Bobby Simmons, I've got to say, great drive, lights the flag victory. You can't really complain too much. But for me, Jack Mace, driver of the day.
Yeah, I'll absolutely 100% agree with you on that one. Jack did an incredible recovery job there. Just kept his head down, really concentrated. Early pit stop worked wonders for him, and yeah, really, really showed what for. But as you said, I think that's you can see the drivers getting out of the car and being ready to have a chat with you, Jack.
Yeah, so we will hopefully get a chat with our top 3 drivers, and somebody that whether he has found the time to watch, I'm sure Gary Preble, round 1 winner, will be ruining the day he missed round 2, because he's just watched what very quickly became his championship rival produce a stellar drive. So whether we are just waiting for the drivers to jump into the commentary box, and then we will be able to grab a word with them. But for round 2, bearing in mind once again there's no sort of real idea on who you're going to be racing and where you're going to be racing on the final round. It just shows how close the championship is already. We do have somebody to bring into our commentary box. It's Peter Jones. That seemed like it could have gone one of 2 ways, Peter, and thankfully I think it went your way.
It did a little bit, yeah. I mean, I think I was actually the only person to change tyres, but towards the end I was like really, really up to pace. So I actually closed down quite a lot towards the end there.
He's just popped out of the commentary box for a moment. But yeah, Peter, that must have been what it seems to be the most popular word of the evening. But that must have been busy, because of course you've got those fresh tyres, you've got to get them up to temperature and then chase down the cars in front. So it must have been quite the experience trying to work your way not only back up from the pit stop and the fresh tyres, but also through the lap traffic to maintain what came home to be a 3rd place.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I actually only hit two lapped cars, and they both got out of the way fairly easily, so I didn't lose too much time from them. Getting the tyres up to temperature actually wasn't too bad. Like the first lap, I think I was about 4/10 off my average race pace, and then from there it was just up to pace. So from then on, I just kept consistent and kept chipping away at the lead.
Well, it seemed like it worked, and I'm sure it was great fun from behind the. We will let you go now, so we can get the rest of the top 3 in. But before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're live?
Mainly, I don't know if she's watching, but my girlfriend. But yeah, she'll probably watch it back afterwards. My roommate might be watching as well. Hey, Leon. And there's on the side of my car, there's a charity I actually support called Action for ME, which is quite a big thing for me. So to get the name out there would be definitely helpful. So Action for ME.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Peter. Congratulations on P3, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Snetterton.
Cheers. Thank you.
Great stuff. So that is Peter Jones. David, the next interviewee, James Black, in towards the commentary box. That's all yours.
Thanks very much, Jack. James, welcome into the commentary box. A wild race there, and for a little bit after the pit stop there, you were starting to close down on Bobby, but talk us through that entire race. Hello, James Black. Are you with us this evening? Oh, there we go. I was waiting to say you're on mute, but James, just as I said there, how was that race? Because that was pretty wild.
Yeah, can we all hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah,
buddy.
okay. Yeah, it was dramatic from that one pretty much. So I made a good move from starting from P5 to get straight into P2 within the end of the first lap. But say my steering wheel decided to give me nose force feedback for the entirety of the 60 minutes. So it was a little bit challenging. What that basically means is like the steering wheel went really light. So it's like having excessive power steering. So I was up against it all the way through. But and say fair play to Bobby. I think I was only sort of keeping with him just, and that was with my issues. So yeah, he done a faultless race, and yeah, I was up against it, but I soldiered on.
How challenging were these cars at Silverstone National? Because at some points they did look like a bit of a handful.
Yeah, so I was just chatting to Bobby just before we came onto this channel, and yeah, literally one small little oversteer or a little bit of under you get through a corner, and you lose about half a second all the time. So they're really challenging, and I think that's why I struggle to sort of keep with him, because a little mistake and you've lost a massive chunk of time. So pretty challenging, but say Snetterton up next, which is possibly even a bit more challenging, because there's a lot more that can go wrong around Snetterton.
Yeah, there certainly is. And finally, anybody that you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to tonight?
Just my usual sponsors, Clive Emerson Auctioneers. My family, my mum and dad, I think are going to be watching downstairs in the sitting room, so big shout out to them, and I hope they had a great evening, and they can now watch Love Island in peace. So.
Oh, well, thanks for reminding me. I'll have to crack off soon. But James Black, thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you back out next time at Snetterton.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great stuff there. A chat with James Black. Thank you very much, David. We welcome our race winner into the commentary box, Bobby Simmons. Now, from our perspective, it was a very busy race because we were looking at the entire order. From your perspective, maybe not so much. Talk us through maybe the first half, and then how that almost set you up for the final.
Yes. Hi guys. By the way, it was very a clear track until just before my first stop. Just come across a couple of lapped cars, and I thought I don't really want to be getting involved with them, especially after what happened at Donington. So I just pitted early. I actually overfueled by about 6 litres in the end. So, and then just drove past all the lap cars, and it just was a nice, simple race actually. James kept me on my toes quite a bit though.
Yeah, it seemed like he was there or thereabouts. Any mistake would have been quite costly, but you dealt with the pressure as exactly how you should have done, kept it on the road and just continued to push forward. 2 weeks time, on the 4th of February, we've got another 60-minute race. We go to Snetterton 300. I know that's where a lot of the practice sessions were held on the run up towards the championship. Having turned a few laps myself, turning is definitely something I did a distinct lack of after pointing backwards a few times. But how are you feeling going into that? Is there any sort of idea that you might be more confident at that circuit? Maybe it's one of the weaker circuits, and of course you might have your rival Gary Preble joining you back on the grid as well. So how are the sort of emotions and expectations heading into that?
Yeah, very very nervous about Gary joining back on the grid, hopefully, because he's a very consistent, very good driver, and he's always been good in all the practice sessions. But Snetterton definitely is one of my weaker tracks. When we were practicing, I only did 10-12 laps because I just thought I'd go straight to Donington, and I was 2.5 seconds off the pace. So it's the next 2 weeks I've got to really get the head down and just concentrate on Snetterton.
Well, there's definitely lots to look forward to, and again, I'm sure it will be an amazing night worth of action. So 2 weeks just seems too far away, but unfortunately, that is the gap we've got to deal with. Once again, a massive congratulations from everybody here for the win here tonight at round 2. But before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'd just like to shout out all the people at Mathwell that for helping me develop my career and where I am at the moment, and all the people at Purple Sector for, again, the same, letting me come in and work on the car, and finally my mum and my dad for just being there for when I need them.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Bobby, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
See you then.
That was Bobby Simmons there, our race winner this evening. But David, before we slowly go into the closing out stages of round 2, any sort of words that you'd like to share with everyone? I'm sure we could sit here for hours and sort of describe how we felt about this evening, but if you could sort of cut it down, make it as short as possible, how are you feeling after round 2?
I think how I'm feeling can only be summed up as one sound, and that's what? That was amazing. What an incredible race. A fantastic beacon for the sim racing series for EnduroKA, for the real life version, and for the sim racing series as well. Really excited to be a part of it. Bring on Snetterton. Let's hope for more of the same throughout the season, and thank you so much for bringing me on board for this evening.
Right, it's been a pleasure to have you. I'm not sure I would have been able to manage it on my own, that's for sure. It was, there wasn't too much time to breathe, and at points, definitely, I forgot to, just too busy engrossed in the battles we saw this evening. But of course, throughout this evening, we wouldn't have been able to do it. It wouldn't have been possible without the amazing sponsors that we have on board here. The first one, of course, Positive Perception. They've done a great job of bringing all of the liveries from the real world, and some of the liveries that the drivers have sort of drummed up themselves, bringing them into the simulator, making them look absolutely fabulous. We have a very good looking grid, and of course making the actual grid finder KA that you can see out on circuit, I'm sure, in the future. We also have Turn 7 coming on board, Caterham Specialists. They do custom race and team wear, and also do race driver and race team support as well. And you can see there's a 10% competitor discount as well. And of course, we've got MSVT Racing and EnduroKA and Burton Power as well. We simply wouldn't have been able to do it without them. So a massive thank you to the sponsors. We've mentioned it a couple of times this evening. We go to Snetterton next time out, the 300 layout on the 4th of February, another 60-minute race to look forward to. And then on the 18th of February, we go to Alton Park, the international layout, the one of the final 60-minute races we've got. Then we go to Brands Hatch Indy, probably one of my favourite rounds from the actual championship, a 90-minute race there. So thankfully, we've got a bit more time to talk about the action. And the final round on the 18th of March. It's still yet to be voted. We have no idea where it's going to be held, but 60 minutes of action yet to take place. And of course, everybody's fighting for the same prize. The top 3 will be awarded a fully paid ARDS license, so they will be able to go racing. And if they already do, they've got the joy of being able to pass it on to a friend, teammate, family, anybody like that. So that could mean maybe another KA out on the grid for real life in the future. And of course, now the actual EnduroKA Championship has opened their entries, so if you are interested in getting out on circuit, you can indeed do that in 2023. Head over to EnduroKA.com for all of the information that you may require, because registration and race entry is now open. But from myself, Jack Rowell, and the brilliant David Christie, and I don't know how he's done it again, Daniel, our producer, it has been an amazing night from everybody here at EnduroKA and MSVT Racing. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. We will see you in 2 weeks' time at Snetterton. Bye-bye.